Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Bosses crowning a flagpole, staring into the far reaches of space. We are in Chidambaram, in the southern state of Tamil Nadu, where cold, creative space has a deep significance.
Here, in the temple of Chidambaram, Lord Shiva is worshipped as the embodiment of elemental ether. He is that inexplicable substance whose wave motions, whose dance results in the world of creation. Or, to put it in other words, in the beginning was the word, the sound of an ethereal hand drum. Then light was born. In the flash of the Big Bang, the wave particles began to dance and creation came into being. And when the dance stops, entropy death. But at that moment, the moving foot of Shiva has already been lifted in the first step of the next dance. All this is expressed in the beautiful symbolism of the dancing Shiva, Natraj, Lord of the cosmic dance, Lord of Chidambaram.
If you choose to take a break here, remember that Chidambaram has its own railway station and is well connected by road and bus lines. It is 250 kilometers from the international airport in Madras and 68 kilometers from a small airport in Pondicherry. Top of the market accommodation in Chidambaram is offered by a state-run hotel at 350 rupees AC double and a private hotel at 275 rupees AC double.
Quite apart from the many devotees who make pilgrimages to Chidambaram, dancers come here to study the many steps of the classical Bharatanatyam system. Virtually all these steps have been sculpted somewhere in the great temple, particularly in the vestibule under the great eastern and western Gopuram towers. There are reputedly 108 poses of the dance described in the dance classic.
Traditionally, we understand, musicians did not sit. They danced along with the dancers.
Every year, in February or March, during Shivaratri or the night of Great Shiva, a dance festival is held here.
While it is difficult to establish the age of this temple, it was certainly in existence before the 10th century. At that time, King Parantaka Chola completed roofing the sanctum with gold.
Quite clearly, many ethnic groups have visited this temple, serving as models for the sculptors. The eyes of the figures on the Gopuram range from Caucasian through Mongoloid to protuberant Negroid.
Even today, India's many ethnic groups visit this temple and dine and gossip in the pilgrim shelters or mandaps found in virtually all South Indian temples. In a mandap, we spoke to Preeti Chowdhury from Bombay and asked if she had known about the temples before she came to the south.
Yeah, because I knew about them. I'd learned it in school. So, you know, when you're learning something in school and you've never seen that place before, and like when you come to see it, it makes you feel more excited.
Though the architecture of the temple is interesting, the minor sculptures are fascinating. We found these, and many others like them, in the Shivakami shrine. Now this is an elephant, and now it's a bull. On the ceiling of the hall were some very expressive paintings which deserved closer study.
Temple tanks too should be studied. In war, they served as community reservoirs. In peace, they recharged wells around by trapping rainwater and releasing it by slow percolation when it was most needed.
Temples too, like the monasteries of medieval Europe, encouraged scholarship. This man is chanting the verses of Ramalinga Swami, a Saivite poet who died many centuries ago.
Time means little to a temple and its hereditary priests. No one knew quite how old the Raja Sabha was. The hall stands on a raised platform just after one enters the temple complex. Generally closed, we persuaded the temple authorities to open it for us and were rewarded with views of some interesting murals on the ceiling. Carved pillars spread before us like an ancient petrified forest. It must be particularly impressive when ancient religious ceremonies are held in it. Such ceremonies can be very attractive, as we learnt when we spoke to Italian tourist Oscar Piccinini.
Yes, it was really exciting because there was full of people, and at 6 o'clock there was religious ritual with a lot of priests, a lot of people, bells, drums, and a lot of things to see and to hear also.
Not many foreign visitors have seen Pichavaram, 16 kilometers from Chidambaram. Spread over 3,000 acres of islands and waterways, it is Tamil Nadu's answer to the tiger-haunted mangrove swamps of Bengal's Sundarbans. Only rowboats are allowed in, and the slap creak of our boat's oars moves us slowly through the water forest.
Mangrove forests are nature's own land reclamation system. Their stilt roots support them in the soft saline ooze. Their dense foliage stands firm against the storms and battering waves.
That's a Brahmani kite, a handsome raptor and recycler of waste. That is probably a spotted dove. It prefers watered lands to the arid countryside of its cousins.
Mangroves filter out and anchor floating debris, creating new soil.
Those are not white rocks, they're living bivalves. These mollusks anchor onto mangrove roots, filter food out of the water, add their droppings and their calcium-rich bodies to the soil of a mangrove swamp.
Ah, that looks like a black-winged stilt. Its stilt-like legs allow it to wade. It's a good swimmer, but it doesn't fly too well. It doesn't need to in a mangrove forest.
We now enter a narrow channel, dark and mysterious. The sun flares like exploding stars through the foliage.
When we emerge into the light again, mangrove seed pods hang like green candles. Inside, the seeds are boat-shaped and designed to float for many months across the sea.
The wet forest falls behind and, slowly, like a Brahmani kite in a slow-motion flight, we head back, out of the magic of the mangroves, to the tall towers of Chidambaram.
The next morning we set off for a day's excursion. In the canal bordering the road, everyone's bathing. Some bathe a little reluctantly. Some bathe with splashing enthusiasm.
In spite of what we had read about it, the complex of Gangaikonda Cholapuram took our breaths away. It is gigantic. The massive gateways stand like the titanic monuments of Egypt and Central America, dwarfing our friend Hari. This temple is all that is left of the proud capital of King Rajendra Chola. Dotted around the temple are the almost vanished ruins of the royal palace, the settlement of the firework makers, the hamlet of the temple guards. Were some of them European?
No, those are not temple guards. They are boys of the National Cadet Corps resting beneath the fortified walls of the temple.
This sphinx-like creature hides a well into which, reputedly, King Rajendra poured water he had brought from the Ganga, the Ganges, during his victories in eastern India, which is why this was called the city of the Chola who had brought the Ganga, Gangai, Konda, Chola, Puram.
Rajendra Chola's Brihadishvara temple follows the style of his father's one in Thanjavur, but it is far gentler in its lines than the uncompromisingly disciplined temple of Raja Raja. The lesser idols and carvings inside this living temple are far less assertive than those in Tanjavur.
There are even processional idols carved out of wood stained to look like metal, a compromise that the perfectionist Raja would never have tolerated.
This sculpture of Chandeshwar appears to depict the tale of a naked mendicant being given a boon by Shiva. By judging from the mendicant's necklaces, bangles, rings and earrings, he is probably Rajendra Chola humbling himself before the Lord.
Next to the beautiful sculpture of Saraswati is the guardian of the gate. One interpretation of the guardian's, Dwarapala's, gestures is, "Behold a wondrous thing. An elephant, the largest of land animals, is being swallowed by a gigantic snake, which is wrapped around a towering tree. But that tree is only my footstool." That is how enormous I am. The one inside is much, much greater than me. Nevertheless, come in. On the other side of the temple, there are more interesting sculptures, most of them in niches in the wall.
Overseas visitors could well have stepped into this Chola temple 900 years ago. Rajendra Chola's ships provisioned from ports like Tarangambadi before their voyage to China.
Tarangambadi became Trankenbar when, in 1620, the Danish East India Company established a trading station and a fort. Later, this settlement was called Tranquebar and the fort Dansborg. Today, the old gate with a crest stands at the entrance of Tranquebar's main street. The Danish crown has been fashioned in the inner side of the gate, and the street is still called King's Street. A Danish historian told us that the town reminded him of the little Danish towns of his childhood.
The Danish settlers prayed in the Zion Church. New Christians, as converts were then called, prayed in the New Jerusalem Church. It was built in 1718 by Bartholomeus Ziegenbalg.
Dunsburg Fort was built by Danish commander Ove Ged in 1620. He sited it just above the beach, where college girls now paddle. The fort now houses a museum strong on the history of the former colony. It could, however, do with a facelift.
The Danes, unlike their Viking ancestors, were gentle traders and no match for the aggressive British. Business languished, and in 1845 it was sold to the British East India Company for 12.5 lakhs of rupees. From the battlements of the old fort, we watched a game of football, played on a field which was once the town square of the Danish colony.
Inside the New Jerusalem church, a man prays as a scholar named Christian Frederick Schwartz once prayed. Schwartz then left Tranquebar to become the mentor of a king. 276 years after Schwartz made the journey, we must leave Tranquebar and follow him to the land of the treasures of time.